whether it is animal, whether it is zakat of silver and gold, or whatever it is, you must give it in accordance with the teaching of Islam. So on the other hand, there are certain civic obligations, civic duties, as a citizen or as a resident of the country. So you must pay the taxes. In other words, one cannot stand for the other. Or at least the revenue that you pay to the state cannot substitute zakat.
It means more or less the tax before serves as a jizya.
Yes, those days do, yes. There used to be, the jizya is what you may call head or poll tax, head tax. Yeah. And it used to be applied to, because the zakat is an obligation of Muslims. The non-Muslims who used to live in the Islamic State were not obliged to pay zakat, because they are not Muslims and it's an obligation of Islam, and therefore it would not be fair for them to be subjected to giving zakat. They are not addressed by the divine speech. But because they are also living in the Islamic State, they enjoy the social benefits and protection and other benefit of the state. And so instead of giving zakat, the state will ask them to pay tax, head tax or poll tax. So then in that case, you have the Muslims paying zakat once and for all, and you have the non-Muslims paying the head tax. But that is an Islamic state. Wallahu alam. Yeah.
Now, we have an Islamic authority in this country, the Islamic Council, for example. Now, can they institute a structure or an institution, for example, within the council, which can collect taxes from Muslims and then use it for Islamic development?
Apart from the Islamic Council, even the government can do. I mean, this is a Muslim government. You have a situation where the majority of people in the government are Muslims, and not only Muslims, but very committed Muslims. So, but in the difference now will be, for the state can create an Islamic authority, let's say Minister of Islamic Affairs, or let's say Central Islamic Department.
No, you have a religious affairs minister.
Yes, which under the authority of the state will take care of this based on the teachings of Islam. In this case too, it will depend on what approach the state is going to take, whether the state is going to leave it optional to individual Muslims to allow the state to centrally collect their zakat, because people do have their savings in the banks. So if they will allow the state to centrally collect their zakat when the time due, it becomes a valid mechanism of zakat collection. Or if the state wants to take another approach, given that it's a Muslim community, and all people that are going to be affected are Muslims, and zakat is mandatory, and the state is acting on behalf of Islam, the state can make it mandatory that every year anybody who is supposed to have zakat, to give zakat will be centrally collected. So the same thing also, the Islamic Council, which is which I will not know whether it's an independent agency or part of the government or structure of the government. In either case, with the support of the government, the Islamic Council can do it on behalf of government. But Islamic Council alone, for it to do it, it has to be, completely supported by the people, and people must cooperate, and people must agree to it. But otherwise, they will not have the authority to do that centrally. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, Ustaz, taking you back to zakat on livestock and things like that. Why is it that Islam not allow Muslims to give out zakat, no matter how big a flock or herd of donkeys, horses, rabbits, hens or stuff we have?
Yeah, you see, some of the animals are called tame animals. Some of them are wild animals. And among the category of the tame animals, and some are used also as a method of, let's say, as a way of developing, a sort of resource-based, property-based, you understand, as a way of having savings or saving property in society. Now, those, while others are not used or they are kept, not necessarily because you are building a sort of a property empire, a property saving, but because of, some other facets like donkeys. Normally people buy donkeys only for the sake of, to serve them, to serve certain services, to render to them certain services. And therefore, sometimes they are wild, sometimes they are tame, but in either case, because they are not meant to be how to call it, saved property, or to be a property that you keep in order for you to make yourself rich. They are non-taxable. And unlike animal, like the behemoth al-an'am, the cows or the cattle, sheep, and camels, These are, you know, type of animal, type of property which naturally Muslims own in order for them to build a sort of, you know, how do you call it, to build a treasure of wealth.
But
Or
hence, for example, you know, poultry, people use
yeah.
poultry for that purpose then.
Again, hen is not subject to zakat because, like I said to you before, as a result of the removal of hardship, the animals that are taxable are very limited. And those, as I said to you before, the rest, as a result of Allah's mercy, they are waived, they are exempted. So hen is waived, is exempted. There is no zakat. But then remember, unless the poultry is a different thing. Those who are running poultries, they are doing business. All these non-taxable property, if you are doing business with them, you are particularly what we call transactional trade. You collect them, you make money, you sell. At the end of the period, you give zakat not out of the hen, but out of the money that you are making. It's a different thing, out of the resources generated. So in other words, this is a sort of type of business, type of trade that the Islamic jurisprudence refers to as transactional trade, al-idara or whatever. Then in this case, zakat becomes due not on the hens proper or the heads of those animals, but on the profit earned out of it. Wallahu alam.
You also touched on jewelry.
Yeah.
That is gold, silver. Of course, not diamond. I would like to ask, why do we give zakat in diamond, or why not we don't give zakat in diamond? And secondly, you see women gather jewelry for use, they understand, personal use, for wearing and stuff. When it gets to the nisab, that Islam says, you know, when it gets to that point, you have to give out zakat. And the one they have is for wearing purposes. Do they need to give out zakat in that?
Yeah, I think the first part of your question, Abubakar, we have to avoid running into the problem of semantic, or using, you know, we have to avoid semantic problems. Here, the terminology used is zahab. It depends on whether you can translate zahab as gold or as diamond. You understand? So in my humble opinion, there's no difference. They are all, both of them constitute zahab. It's a type of precious natural resource that people, you know, get out of the earth, and they make business out of it. So what we call zahab, in my humble opinion, will include both of them, and therefore is subject to zakat.
So it means diamond is subject to zakat?
Oh, naturally, yes, of course.
It means we'll have to come again and talk on how zakat should be given out of diamond.
Well, so to me, let me again warn you against, you know, getting into the semantic problem here. Call it zahab. Al-fiddatu wa zahab.
I understand. What I'm saying is...
Yeah, so it is whether it is diamond or gold, the method is the same. The robot, what you call it, 20 dinar or equivalent of 20 dinar. You understand? Whether in the raw material or in terms of paper money. Or the same thing also apply to silver. 200 dinar, the raw, the core one, or or anything else in terms of paper money, which is equivalent to 200 dinar. So whether you call it diamond or you call it how to call it gold, because it's on the zahab. The general term is zahab in Islamic jurisprudence.
200 dinar of gold, 200 dinar of silver, 200 dinar of diamond. All of this should be given zakat. No,
not 200. 20 dinar, a value of 20 dinar of gold or diamond, or a value of 200 dirham. 200 dirham of silver or paper money. And you know, that was how we calculated the taxable amount of dalasi to 14,705, yes.
What conveys me, there is a difference between silver and gold in terms of
yes.
Yeah. Then, because by virtue of their value.
They are not the same.
Now the value between diamond and gold also is too huge. So I'm thinking that there will be a difference in the zakat.
Well, of course. What is the difference in terms of value? I think the difference in terms of value become only important in a situation where you want to know the equivalence. Like you want to know the equivalence of 20 dinar in gold in Gambian dalasi, or the equivalent of 20 dinar in diamond, or value of diamond in terms of $20. Just like the way I said to you before, when it comes to silver, you have to know the amount of 200 dirham.
I think.
Let me learn. In terms of the how do you call it, the quantity of the raw material itself, and I said to you that was 595 gram. In gold is 95 gram too. You understand? It's 85 gram. Sorry, it's 85 grams. So if you have 85 gram of diamond or 85 gram of gold, check, look at the value in terms of dalasi. that will give you, you know, the taxable amount. Wallahu alam. Yeah.
Okay, perhaps we'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to jewelries that women wear.
Yeah.
Jewelries that they buy for wearing purposes. When they get to the nisab, as you said earlier, do they need to give out?
No, normally jewelry is not